Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty fascinating diagnostic mystery, one that's left so many of us feeling incredibly frustrated. I mean, have you ever switched to a new, highly recommended, super intensive hair treatment, totally hoping for smoother, stronger, more resilient strands, only to find your hair becoming completely dry, brittle, and just impossible to manage? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're decoding the protein paradox and exploring why our absolute best efforts to fix our hair might actually be the exact thing destroying it.
So, let's get right into it. Why is your hair breaking despite deep conditioning and all those expensive treatments? It's an incredibly validating question to ask, isn't it? We spend a ton of money on fancy products. We dedicate our evenings to these heavy, deep conditioning masks, completely convinced we're doing the right thing for our hair health. And yet, we end up staring at our hairbrushes in total dismay because our strands are still snapping. It honestly feels like a betrayal. You're doing all the work. You're buying the products, but you're getting the absolute opposite result of what the bottle promised. Well, here's the big plot twist we're investigating today. Protein overload. You see, our hair is primarily made of keratin, which is a structural protein. So, when our hair gets damaged, protein treatments step in to temporarily fill the tiny gaps along the hair shaft. Sounds perfect, right? But wait. When excessive protein accumulates on the hair, it creates this highly rigid structure that completely lacks flexibility. Instead of feeling soft and manageable, your hair becomes stiff and just snaps. That is protein overload in action.
Section 1. Common misconceptions. Separating myth from reality. To really figure out how we're accidentally causing this damage, we have to unlearn some very persistent marketing myths. The beauty industry has essentially drilled into us that protein equals strength. So naturally, we assume that if a little bit of protein is good, well, a massive amount of protein must be a miracle cure. We think more protein means stronger hair. But the reality, based on the actual science of how our hair shafts function, is that excessive protein directly contributes to brittleness. You aren't building a stronger strand, you're literally building a fragile glass-like structure.
Another huge pitfall happens when we notice dry hair. We panic, right? And we immediately reach for the heaviest repair protein mask we can get our hands on. But the reality is that dryness is almost always a moisture deficiency, not a protein deficiency. If your hair is begging for a drink of water, throwing rigid structural proteins at it isn't going to hydrate it. In fact, adding protein to already parched hair will actively worsen the roughness and the breakage.
Moving on to Section 2, Spotting the Suspect, Signs of Overload.
So how do we actually know if we've crossed that line? Well, if you're experiencing protein overload, your hair is going to send you some very clear physical signals. First up, you'll notice a dry, almost straw-like texture, and this persists even right after you've rinsed out your conditioner. Second, you'll experience a massive increase in tangling and knots. Why? Because the hair cuticle has become rough and raised from all that excess protein. And finally, the most noticeable side effect of all, frequent breakage during brushing or styling. If you're gently brushing and hearing tiny snaps, yeah, that's a massive red flag.
Now, the absolute crucial point here is elasticity. This is the ultimate test. I want you to visualize a rubber band. Healthy hair has an elastic quality. It stretches slightly under tension and then bounces right back to its original shape. It can easily handle being pulled back into a ponytail. Overloaded hair, on the other hand, acts like a dry twig. It has zero flexibility. The moment you put tension on it, it doesn't stretch. It just snaps immediately.
Section 3. How does this happen? The root causes.
Let's look at the crime scene here. How do our good intentions actually trigger this kind of damage? Well, it almost always comes down to our daily routines. We're overusing hydrolyzed protein masks, meaning the proteins are broken down small enough to penetrate the hair shaft, and we're treating them like daily conditioners instead of occasional treatments. Or we're layering products without even realizing it. You buy a protein shampoo, follow it up with a protein conditioner, and then lock it all in with a protein leave-in. Your hair is just being bombarded. Also, if your hair is chemically treated or heat damaged, it actually acts like a sponge, absorbing protein much more readily, which just accelerates that stiffness. And finally, the biggest culprit of all, completely ignoring moisture treatments while we obsess over repair. To really anchor this idea, let's bring in the experts. Dermatologist Dr. Annika hits the nail on the head when she states, protein treatments can be highly beneficial, but they should always be balanced with adequate moisture. Hair that receives too much protein without sufficient hydration may become stiff, fragile, and more susceptible to breakage. The absolute key takeaway from the dermatology field here is that strong hair isn't just protein-rich hair. It's hair that has achieved a very delicate balance.
And this brilliantly illustrates the science behind that balance. Think of your hair like a brick wall. The keratin, the protein, is the brick. It gives the wall its structure and its sheer strength. But what happens to a brick wall if there's no mortar? It completely crumbles, right? Moisture is the mortar. While hydrolyzed proteins fill in the gaps and act as those structural bricks, they desperately require moisture to hold the whole shebang together, maintain flexibility, and prevent that hair shaft from cracking under pressure.
Section 4. The Bathroom Audit. Rebuilding Balance.
Okay, so how do we fix this? It's time to rebuild the balance in your hair care routine. I want you to do a quick mental audit of the bottles sitting on your shower shelf right now. If your hair is currently feeling stiff and snapping, you need to hit pause on the overload culprits. Check your ingredient lists and temporarily step away from things like hydrolyzed keratin, wheat protein, silk protein, collagen, and amino acid complexes. Now, you aren't banning them forever, but you definitely need a break. Instead, you need to actively seek out and use moisture builders, aloe vera, glycerine, panthenol, and natural nourishing oils. These are the specific ingredients that are going to reintroduce that vital mortar back into your hair.
Let's see how this all builds into an actionable 5-step roadmap for healthier routine. Step 1, gentle cleansing that's tailored to your specific scalp needs. Step 2, follow that up with a moisturizing conditioner that focuses entirely on hydration and softness. Step 3, and here's the real trick, weekly deep conditioning, but you alternate. 1 week is moisture, the next week is protein. Keep them balanced. Step 4, don't forget your scalp care because healthy hair starts right at the root. And finally, step 5, monitor your results. Your hair is going to tell you what it needs. If it starts feeling stiff again, you'll know exactly what you need to adjust.
So the crucial takeaway we've arrived at is this. True hair health doesn't come from some magical, intensive, quick-fix treatment. It comes from a complete, balanced routine. A well-formulated regimen that combines a gentle protein shampoo with natural oils and nourishing conditioners is just far more effective for long-term health. Consistency with a balanced daily routine always wins over constantly shocking your hair with intense, standalone protein masks. Moderation really is everything.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Knowing what you know now about the delicate balance between structural bricks and hydrating mortar, is it time to go check those ingredient labels in your shower? You might just find the hidden culprit behind your bad hair days hiding in plain sight. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive, and I really hope this helps you build a healthier, more resilient routine.